Yeah, so. So honestly, so good stuff. Smaller stuff. And we should have just not community before it's better than that. Let me know what they're ready to do. And so you through it. And you
Okay.
Good evening. Apologies for the delay. Seeing as how it is now after 6:30, I'll call the ordinance meeting of the Kensington Board of Selectmen for Monday, January the 6th, 2025. And begin by asking those present to please rise before I speak. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, happy New Year, everyone, and we will now go ahead to public comment. And this time, anyone who's here wishes to address the board with comments or questions is welcome to do so. If there's none, I'll close public comment, but those present should know they're welcome to engage or comment on any of the agenda items as we move along. We'll head then into our department head reports. I go to the fire department with Chief Farland.
Nothing to report on the fire department side of the house. We're just finishing up our new heating system. Hopefully the electrician will be finished sometime this week, putting up our condenser in our unit that needs to be wired in properly. But yeah, nothing other than that for the fire side.
Comments or questions for the fire chief? Hearing none, thank you for that. We'll move ahead to the emergency management report.
Only thing for emergency management is there's a meeting on Wednesday with the state and Jason Poole, who's a firefighter in our department, that's going to be doing the making of the holes for the radio antenna with the state supervising and making sure that it's done properly and right and will be sealed up and we will have no problems. So that's why I brought in Jason, because the state had somebody else that was like, no, I'm not good with that. I'll bring in my guy. So so that's gonna happen on Wednesday. So that's it for EOC.
Thank you. Comments or questions on emergency management?
Who from the state is coming? They give you a name?
You would have to ask me that. It's their radio guy. I think his name is. Could be wrong.
What time is that?
10 o'clock.
And 10 a.m.?
Yep.
Make sure to say hello. I think most of the state there.
Okay.
So,
Sure. Always welcome.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Do we have this?
Yeah.
We have an appointment for a new firefighter EMT.
Yeah.
This is ready to proceed. Everything is all squared away with this applicant.
Yes.
Sure.
Just background.
Just that.
But I don't think we'll have any problem. He's full-time firefighter in Exeter, so I don't see any problems with his background.
These guys made a report from Exeter. We don't know what we get paid for.
Yeah.
So this is the appointment for firefighter EMT for Ryan Hart. And we would entertain a motion for that appointment.
I'll make a motion to appoint to the position of firefighter EMC, Brian Hart of Hampton, New Hampshire.
Second that, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion will carry. And there are positions they're signing. And then we can, Sarah can sign the business as this time is available. Or swearing, I should say. Yes. Thank you. Move ahead then to the road manager, Sean.
All's quiet in the road department, nothing new to report.
Questions or comments from Matt?
You got that last email I sent you about that particular driveway?
No.
Okay, I'll make sure. I'll resend it to you.
Send it to the doc, one, doc, I'll email one.
No, I sent it to yours for the.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, okay,
Alright.
that's the one on one of the. Had a. Driveway had was raised in the front so that. You know, the plow, once that driveway plowed, the plow couldn't plow it because. That was when the road was redone, there was a height differential. Left between the driveway and the road.
Okay.
So the driveway currently is higher than the road instead of it being a smooth transition.
The driveway's higher than the road?
What's that?
The driveway's higher than the road?
The driveway is higher because the road was cut lower than what the original, from what it originally was. So when the paving was done, it has left about a 4 to 6 inch height differential,
Okay.
which is a problem when the homeowner wants to plow his driveway and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'll go back and I'll find my email and stuff when I went to take a look at it.
So the driveway issue or road issue?
It was when they redid the road.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they came in and they put the caps on the driveways and they left this one higher. So, my opinion is it was where it was supposed to be before the road was redone. And then after the road was redone, all of a sudden the driveway has a lip that's higher.
Right.
So I think that when the people repaved the road,
Yeah.
they didn't allow a proper transition between the driveway.
We
They just,
we typically give the uniform transition to everyone's driveway.
right, I mean, that didn't happen here.
Okay.
Yeah, so now with the guy that has to have his driveway plowed, the guy comes in with the plow and it's like a 6.
But you have to understand, Bob, if I give everybody 2 to 3 feet transition and then somebody's requesting like 10 into their driveway, at some point it's a.
I understand what they just the homeowner. I think it was when the paving was redone,
Okay.
that the pavers did not adequately take that into compensation
You know.
and allow a smooth transition.
Okay, well, we'll have to get together and look at that, Bob.
Yeah, I sent you an email, I mean, just a while, ago. I sent you an email, look, if you don't have it, I can,
Yeah, please do send that, Bob.
yeah, okay.
Anything else relative to the road manager?
Not for me at this time.
Thank you. We move then to our building inspector. So we're going.
Nothing to report, starting off with the permits, all set. Just have one item, lot fee is, it's bad for 2 or 3 months, whatever it is there. He had called me and asked if his son could fill in for his expense. I meant to talk to Kathy about it, so that might be something, I don't know how that would work if he did that.
We have to appoint him as an interim electrical inspector.
So I'll do it for now. He's going to wait. Yeah, he takes it every year.
In my understanding, Pat's always been the guy in your seat that covers.
Yeah.
But if we have someone else that is.
Well, I don't want to let the son have emailed me and mentioned or texted me and mentioned, can we meet? And my dad said that this, and I said, yeah, I'll get to you, but I don't want to text him and say, yeah, you can do this. I want to know, yeah, I can.
Right. Yeah, no, we would have to appoint, as as an inspector.
Yeah.
And we would have to make sure, obviously, that the credentials are sufficient and everything else.
I'll talk to Kathy about it, just, we'll go for it.
Not a problem. Anything else for the building inspector, code enforcement officer? Hearing none, thank you. We'll move ahead then into our new business, and one of which I presume we have folks here joining us on is the meeting that was earlier today that involved some of our relevant town staff, Conservation Commission, and some abutters to the conservation property that we've discussed a few times here. I'm curious what sort of, I was not at that meeting, so I'm happy if this is sort of a moment to hear some of the outcome of the conversation that took place earlier today. Happy for, if you guys want to share your thoughts from it first, then we'll.
Listen, we do not very make.
Okay, but I don't want to waste your time either. I want to make sure that if it's a.
Listen.
Okay, well then, me too. So, you guys want to go ahead and brief the board?
Yeah. We all met today. And Conservation Commission and Molly there, from Molly, so, you can't at all.
Who's the other young lady that was there?
I'm sorry. And the guys, and he's the other daughter.
No, the young lady, he came over after the weekend.
My understanding, I will say, I did get reached out to by the conservation chair, Courtney Pernetta, who's another member of the Conservation Commission. Yeah,
I think the big item was the sign. Was the closure sign. That was canceled, so that was a big item.
Yeah,
Talking about. So that, and the wording of it.
yeah, so that's what I took away from it too. Conservation Commission's main viewpoint was of the signage saying, the trail was closed, but from what I understand, we're still waiting for legal. So that's still in limbo, so.
And the wording could be adjusted, I think. And she not have a problem with the proper wording. And the big other thing was the location. She thought it should be down by the water. As a, I don't know,
More of an educational, see beavers, be aware,
maybe pass it, your personal risk of something to that effect. I mean, nothing was discussed as far as the exact wording.
sure.
Obviously, we need to have legal look at that.
The main takeaway from Norman and Holly's perspective, if I may, was definitely the delineation of said property line between themselves and conservation and the easement holder conservation. Cause it's merely a rock wall there, and so there's no true.
The line is not delineated at every section or every location. We went with the whole length of the property line. So the wall has been moved, the wall has been, the dam has moved rocks off the edge, different locations where trees have grown, pushed rocks one way or the other. So there's no exact line, based on, the other regulations, the electric fence, which was Pam's, another one of Pam's, problems with. She's worried that, somebody could trip and grab it and don't know how much power is going to be exposed to it. My take on it was, I understand the electric fence because of the Austin's and so on. But the area question is down by the pond. That was the big, that's really the area in question. So the water is water right up to the edge of the beaver dam. So I guess people have tried to walk across those rocks on that beaver dam. And obviously it's not safe. So,
Which the beaver dam is on said property.
it's on the property. So that's, she had talked about that. I think based on the signage, she was good, she would rather see the signage give warning rather than closed. Basically, that was our take of it. So again, that would be something I guess legal would have to address.
Pam did call me this afternoon, or we spoke on the phone this afternoon, because she wasn't gonna be here and wanted to pass on her thoughts from the meeting, so I'm always hesitant to sort of characterize somebody else's feelings back from a meeting that day, but my understanding was that from her perspective, the fence and the wall is really less of an issue and isn't particularly interested, which she said, not particularly interested in the town expending a lot of time and effort to figure out any kind of survey or anything like that, that it was more the signage and the access issue that was the consideration. And her feeling was that as we work with legal to identify what better language there might be or language and placement, that conservation would be involved in that exercise, which I think is a fair request. And that the boundary is less the issue than it is access for townspeople to that land, because the easement management, the easement holder has that stipulated that there's public access for recreation in that land. And when we put up a sign that says closed, it potentially is an issue for people that don't feel they have access to that. So if we're able to create verbiage that is clearer about whether it's proceed at your own risk, water can be high during certain seasons, here's what beavers are like. Those are all things I think that we could work between legal and conservation. We can work together to get appropriate signage that is adequately cautionary, but without being exclusionary.
Without being restricted to the.
Right. So now,
residents.
Can I say something?
please go ahead.
All due respect, Joe. This has been ongoing issue. Now, all of a sudden, why is she calling you directly as opposed to coming to the meeting where we came tonight to address, no, let me finish, to address the issue? Let me tell you about the meeting today. I tried to point out a lot line today, and she took over. She said, this is the way it's going to be. And we walked down and we listened to her. This has been conducted behind the scenes, not by the board, but by them on a number of occasions. I would love it if they could come here and speak to what the meeting was today, which I thought was a productive meeting. They all of a sudden raised another issue about bringing the EPA in about our electric fence. So when is this going to stop? We could call you and talk to you behind the scenes, but and don't get me wrong on this, Joe. I know you have to take calls and everything, but let's put this out in a public forum that everybody talks and everybody knows what we're talking about. Now, the signage as we said today at the meeting, that is a town matter. It's between council, it's between you, it's between the conservation commission. But we still have the concern about the rock wall. And I think the last meeting I came to, it says that rock wall can no longer be considered the rock because of what has happened. So when you go down to where the pondage is, and the beavers have pushed to climb in the sticks, it appears that the rock wall has moved. It appears that it has moved or shifted over into our lot line. So if we say the center of the wall is now the lot line, I can't assure you that's the case. It may have shifted over onto our property, and that wall may be totally on our property. So that's our concern, is let's just talk and be open about this, that we could sit here and listen to our concerns. We can put and tell you our concerns, and let's just not try to backdoor things. That this is her concern, this is how the meeting went, this is our issue. Come to a meeting and express those concerns. That's what the public forum is for. Or that's why they should come and present their side at their session on the agenda. And that's, I'm sorry if I seem a little irritated, but when they brought up the EPA thing, and I said to you at the last meeting, how far is this going to go? Can anybody give me any assurances? Is the town going to spend legal fees on defending an EPA issue? On defending whether we're an agricultural entity over there? Whether we should have horses on the wetland? When this whole thing started with a boundary issue, and we sat there, Polly asked her, where are we on your property? He stands across the way and points and goes, you see that tree across the way? We think that's on their property, not on your property. So she couldn't even definitively give us an area. You guys could tell me if I'm wrong, but couldn't really tell us where they were talking about where our electric fences are. So in summary, I'm sorry to take me time, but this has gone from a boundary line, whether we're a farm, whether we should have animals on that property, and now we're in violation of EPA standards. So.
Let me just, if I may, Howard, before you do that, just a couple of things going directly to your comment. I don't think there's anything nefarious about, one, I can't control who can make it to a meeting or not. And so when Pam called me this afternoon and said, here is what my takeaway was, I'm bringing that here and saying, here's what the chair of the Conservation Commission told me this afternoon. I'm doing my best to relate it honestly and without any spin or color. That for her, the big issue was the signage, and she even said that the boundary was not of any particular concern. Okay, and let me
Okay, go ahead.
go from there. I can say that from my perspective, just as one of the board members up here, like I have no particular, like whether it's EPA or wetlands or agriculture, like that's not even on my radar. That really all I care about right now is the signage issue, because that's how all this really started. And solving that, the access and the signage issue is the only thing that I really even have, from my perspective. So, and the whole idea of this meeting this afternoon was to get the players together to look at it and have a conversation on site where there could be a free exchange of what everybody's thoughts and position was. And we had people from the town, people from the abutters that were there and able to look at it. And as I said, hopefully one of the productive exchange, that took place. So I know that Holly, you had more than one, but I just wanted to call out. Right.
Hey, I don't really want to work there.
Well,
It's interesting to me that she would say to you that she didn't really think the boundary thing was a big, if I'm hearing you right, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I heard you say is that's not her main concern, it's not the boundary line, it's not that. Because that's not how I felt when we left the meeting. A number, more than once, I don't know how many times, but several times I asked her and Courtney, tell me where you think we're on your property. There's 660 feet of a butter line for us to that property. I asked her, where is your property? Where are we on your property? She really couldn't tell me anything above. She said, I believe, she had not herself walked that. We thought she had walked that with the New Hampshire forestry people, whatever. So then I said, okay, so is the problem really just this water area? And that did seem to be the problem. And I said, can you tell me specifically in this area, where do you think our fence is on your property? She pointed out one tree with one wire attached to the tree. But then we went from there to talking about that, the access over, when I asked her, how are you going to get the access over the water? Well, it could maybe be by a rubber raft or it could be by whatever. Our concern is it's going to be over that rock wall that is the beaver dam that is in question as to whose property that's on. And she said, they said then, well, recreational immunity. They can't sue you for that, which that's not true. Anyone can sue for anything. And so we might prevail, we might not prevail, but we would incur legal fees defending ourselves. So it may not seem to be an issue for her, the property delineation, but that's a big issue for us because that's where our risk is. That's where our concern is. That's where our fence is that's been there for 23 years and now seems to be a problem. So I think, I don't speak for Norman, but that's where my heartache is about this, is that she tells you after the fact that it's no big deal to her about the property line. We know that you all will make the best decisions for the town about the access down that trail. We have no doubt, we're not concerned about that. We're concerned about somebody slipping and falling on that beaver dam of rocks and mud that's attached to a rock wall that we think right now sits on our property. We have no legal survey that says, but everybody seems to say today, we agree, rock walls move, trees move, things move. So how are we supposed to proceed with that now?
Let me back up just a heartbeat, which is say that as I try to characterize as best I can what I was told, I don't know that no big deal is accurate. I think her spot was, that's not their main concern, that's not their priority. And I don't want it to be as dismissive as, well, that's not, you know, it doesn't matter. So, you know, it's, their main concern was the signage and the access. That's what she was trying to convey. And she actually did say that, you know, is it something where time and treasure needs to be expended on a survey for that, for your sake and for ours? That may not be conservation's consideration. That may be a consideration that the town and you guys want, that we might want to look at from a liability risk management issue. I think that's our problem, certainly. I don't know that that's conservation. So I think that's maybe where, as the CC chair, she may have been saying their primary concern is access to the property, right? And again, I don't want to put my ice skates on for the rest of the day on characterizing her comments and her thoughts kind of brief conversation that we had. So I think there's two pieces. It sounds to me like there's two pieces. One is the access issue, which will if we could decouple it, we'll deal with the signage and through legal and the conservation commission. That's our work over here. It sounds like we have a side conversation maybe about the boundary because of the potential for exposure given where the fence is located and, whether or not people traveling close to the boundary may or may not put themselves in potential danger because of that. And whether that's, if somebody, because of shifting boundaries, is walking actually on your property or not, or, you know what I mean? So I get that. I understand where you're coming from.
Say, if we could at least have a knowledge of what you all are thinking about the sign language, because if we had some input to that, one of the things would be, we would want to discourage anyone from using that rock wall. If we're not going to determine what property it's on and it is in question as to actually where it sits, no one needs to be crawling across that rock wall in the winter time when it's slippery and icy and we know what's going to happen, or potentially what could happen. So we, I guess, I would at least like to have a knowledge of what you all were thinking ultimately about what that signage should say about that crossing, water crossing area. Not about the tree being open or closed or whatever, but how you, what happens when you get down there to the bottom and you're facing water and the only way across the water is probably to go on that walk wall.
I mean, it's even to the point of, it may say that, you know, be advised that rock wall is private property and shouldn't be traversed, or something to that effect might address what you're talking about. I would be curious, you know, without having a sign, when you've seen the city parking signs that say, you know, on alternate Tuesdays from 3 to 5, the sign is this long. We want to come up with something that that satisfies what we're talking about and is informative without being so informative that it's useless. But I don't think that you're asking too much or that we're, let me start that sentence again. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that there would be value in a sign that says proceed at your own risk that may enumerate one or two of those risks, which is high water may be present and be advised that the private property with electric fencing on the lawn, you know what I mean? Something.
Stratton did a really good job of this, the Stratton Hill Park, where they delineated private property and there are a different set of rules for this particular, for the next.
Right.
You know, half a mile, there's a different set of rules than there was when you first got here.
Yeah, and
They really did it without seeming
yeah, and
predatory.
yeah, and with respect to conservation commission meetings, there's concern from their side that because the access to the conservation land is not a clear, safe, access, then that might not be the location. The access might need to move somewhere else to get back to conservation. You know, it's a liability concern for the town also, if they don't, the town doesn't take actions to try to help alleviate the situation. Yeah, it's a funky area, the rock wall, and it's not a clear path from there. Even though there's an access into the conservation land from the road, it's really not, as soon as you get in a little bit, you get right by the area where the fence is, it just kind of blurs it, so where the trail is and everything else. It would actually be better if there was access was not allowed at that location.
Well, what I think we need to do is address the fact that access there is not simple. And so signage there can't say ideal access to this property is located at this other entrance. Proceed at own risk at this location with these cabins, right? Like, so I mean, otherwise, because if you just say it's closed, people might think, well, the whole thing is closed and not go to the other one, or they may say, if there's no signage, people are gonna go on walk. So we've got to identify what's the right message that can be placed there that has the town's concerns abutters' concerns appropriately reflected. I've seen places, when I was years and years ago, and I was down in Maryland, you go to a place and the sign, it would be like those trailhead signs you see up in North that have the map and it says, you know, you go here, not here, these other sorts of things. And then it's, you know, incumbent upon the walker, hiker, biker, whatever, to be cognizant of the space that they're entering. So I don't think that I don't think it's impossible. I think we just gotta put our heads together and do it. And not dance for another 6 months.
The last thing I want to say is, none of these satellite issues going to stop. You know, from whether the horses should be on wetlands, now we're talking EPA. You know, it seems like this is a new issue about the EPA. When we made the presentation, I think, 2 weeks ago, we were only talking about whether the horses should be on wetland. And then I just think we established that we are a farm. Now, all of a sudden, whether you should have an electric fence over water. And there's EPA regulations. Well, I looked up the EPA regulations and they deal with wildlife and fish, frogs and stuff. And it's just, it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. And the concern I have, Joe, and this is not a criticism of you, but if she had anything to say about the meeting, she should have been here and she should have talked about it. Because we don't know where this is gonna go or when this is going to stop. And at least if she's talking about a potential legal issue, she should be here presenting it so the public can hear it. Not, you know what, I could call Bob, I could call Bob, I could call you. I know I could call Gino, I could call, but we have been up and open about this. And certain accusations have been made about us that have been unfounded. And I guess what I'm asking for this is that for it to stop. And they posed a lot line issue. And for my concern is for future, if we sell the property, whether there's going to be a lot line issue, I think a lot line should be established. And we have said 1,000 times, if our fence is on that property, we will move it. But right now, all of a sudden, they're giving up the lot line issue. Because we said today, we didn't care what you guys decided about the sign. And she said, I'm glad to hear it. Then all of a sudden, it's kind of, so it makes me, you know, in my private profession, I've always was suspicious. And I'm suspicious about this, right about now. And I think, I hate to make a threat, but I think we have to go reevaluate the situation and to take into consideration where we're exposed and where we're not exposed, where this is going in the future. This is 3 times that they have raised an issue. We don't know where this is going to stop. And we have come here and said, we want this to stop, let's work it out. But it doesn't seem like it's going that way. So, thank you.
Unless and until any other issues are brought here formally by another committee or commissioner or agent of this town, I can't comment.
Okay.
And I won't comment on things that haven't been brought. I mean, I don't know what conversations have happened elsewhere. I do know that wetlands, EPA, those other things have never been part of what I've seen relative to this. And until, I'm not gonna say it, until unless that happens, I don't know, you know what I mean, I don't know what to say about it until unless it's brought. I do know that the meeting today was intended to move this forward with the issue of the line and of the signage. That's what we're trying to solve here. And beyond that, I don't wanna muddy the waters with a whole bunch of other stuff. Let's solve what we can solve. So what I wanna do is,
But those waters have been muddy, right?
I understand.
We have to go back, and we have to evaluate now what was said to us, and whether this is going to be something, and I know, Joe, I know you had the best intentions in this, but we have to go back and reevaluate, you know, I don't know if you're gonna be on the board next year or not on the board. Somebody totally different than you could be sitting on the board. I think what we need to do is we need to take a look at this and at least try to evaluate how we're gonna protect our interest in this. And I know you guys have probably the best intentions, but, you know, sometimes when you're relying on that, when there's a change, then you never know, so.
I would never expect you not to look out for your own interest. That's how this thing works. And the challenge, as you all know here, is you try to look out for everybody's interests, and that sometimes those are competing or conflicting, and you gotta try to manage that as best you can. From my perspective, I wanna get good signage down and see if we can't get to that. And what I wanna walk away from here is with some accountability for that process. Because when we don't do that, it's when it goes another 6 months and nothing happens. So what I would like to do is to ask if, you know, Matt, you're our sign guy, for better or for worse, I'm sorry about that. And Bob, you're our conservation committee guy.
We're gonna discuss it further. I gotta see how much of this is coming back, is pushed back from the state conservation organizations on the commission versus, you know, versus just whether it's, you know, money's been paid out for the conservation properties and stuff like that. So some of that may get entangled with some pushbacks from the organizations. You know, the state conservation organizations.
Well, you've got the New England Forest or the New Hampshire Forest guy. Yeah, and they're the easement holder.
Right, exactly.
And so, but as far as I understand, the extent of their issue is access to the property. And that's what we've,
Not if they're being easement holders, they have a level of oversight for the properties. We're supposed to manage, the Conservation Commission is supposed to manage that, but the easement holders have a certain amount of oversight, and they, not in this around here, but in other properties they have, where they feel things aren't right, they have not actually stepped in from a legal perspective.
right, what I'm saying is my understanding is, in this case, their primary goal is that access to the property be in keeping with the nature of the easement, which says that it's there for public recreation.
Right, right.
Okay, and so what I want to do here is get to a point where we have appropriate signage that satisfies that, while at the same time mitigates the town's liability with, you know, risk of access and other things.
Right.
And it sounds to me like there are probably some extant examples we can draw from that aren't whole cloth drawing board ways to go. And so I want to go back to, if we have our town administrator, our conservation rep, conservation chair, and our sign guru, legal is gonna weigh in, but I want that team, if you will, to sort of have the ball for this.
Right.
Because I want a month from now to be able to check back in and see whether we've been able to get any progress.
Bring something back with signs, I would say, for the 20th, the meeting of the 20th.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we set that by the 20th? We can have done some diligence on this, because I don't want, you know, you don't want the town 6 months, a year. Yes, Holly.
And all I would like to say is, we have an interest in what you're talking about now, because part of the conversation today was when I was asking about where are you saying, where is anyone saying we're on the property? It wasn't always clear exactly if it was the Conservation Commission saying it, or was this New Hampshire Forestry? And I think, Bob, you're saying that this New Hampshire Forestry Organization is are they the leaseholder?
And he's,
Easement holder.
right,
So I think it would be important to us to know when you get your answers and when you are talking to them, if I want to know that their issues are what are the issues that Pam is conveying that the issues are. She's saying it's not that our fences on their property, at least that seems to be, that's not the most important thing there. The most important thing is the signage. I want to know that that is New Hampshire Forestry's concern and that we're not later going to hear, oh, no, that's not quite right. We're concerned you're on our property. If we resolve the whole thing, needs to be, we need to know that the people that have the vested interest, ownership or whatever, to us as the butters, this is what they're saying. This is what their position is.
And do they have, and do they have title to that access? Because part of my prior life was doing registering research. And I'm not saying I'm right on this, but what I see is that there is no document that shows that public access from Holton Ridge Road was part of the transfer of the property to the society. So whether that was an old fire trail, whether that's town property, or whether that was conveyed to them, is another question, because somebody could be making a decision that they don't really have legal. So
yeah, those are all very valid points, because there could be too many assumptions being made in one direction. So that really has to be a deeper investigation to the ownerships of the properties before and everything else, any of the legal transfers that might occur. Just so we're, so everybody's sure of what should be. So, yeah, that really has to get a more in-depth analysis of what actually occurred.
sorry.
No, that's fine. I have no problem with making sure that whatever ducks exist line up in whatever road they're supposed to.
We,
We just
And
want to be upfront for everybody because we don't want to be uncooperative or we want to work.
we'll be open with it. Everything that we're thinking, we will tell you. But, it's funny, 23 years when fat and happy over there and all of a sudden not. So,
Okay,
one thing I will say though is that there's a tendency to sort of put people in their corners and say, well, the Conservation Commission is over here, the town is over here. Conservation Commission is part of the town. We're all one entity here. They have a charge within the town to do certain things for us, part of which is liaising with easement holders and helping to manage these conservation properties that we have. So if it seems, for instance, that I am wholly ignorant on any number of issues around, because I don't liaise with the Conservation Commission, they're there so that I don't have to be an expert. And so that's one piece of it. So, let's proceed on a couple of different topics. One, let's proceed with the signage issue. I have no problem with looping you guys in on any proposed language for that, so that you have an opportunity to chime in. I can't guarantee you veto power, but I can say that you'll get to see what it looks like. And then we can also look at these other questions that exist. But what I don't want to do is hold up the one for the other. Let's achieve what we can while having these other things simmering on the stovetop at the same time. Does that all check out with where we are? Okay. If I stay here too long, we'll close.
thank you for the effort today. It was calm and it was valuable and we thank you all for showing up and doing that.
You're welcome to look forward. Well, we're here.
Okay, then let's have it as an agenda item for the 20th, and we'll check in and see where we are. Okay, thank you. Moving on, one thing we do want to talk about, we'll get to the warrant articles here shortly. Excuse me, is, I was contacted this afternoon, and Kathy was as well, at my suggestion by One Guy, which is a nonprofit organization which has acquired property at 50 Cottage Road, next to the park. And they are looking to develop a therapeutic riding, program there. And they are a candidate, for a community development block grant in support of that project. And when these community development block grants are applied for, the town, it has to express its support for that application in order for it to be competitive and approved by the state and federal process that's there. We did one of these 20+ years ago in Exeter for a daycare facility on Hampton Road. We don't have a lot of lifting to do. It consists of a sequence of hearings at which we hear a presentation from the organization about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. People have an opportunity to ask questions. There's discussion. And then I believe, and we'll want to check in with legal around this, you know, Kathy, you started that process, as to, I believe the final deliverable is a letter or a co-signing of an application or something to that effect that we do that says that we're in favor of the project and the application and that it has parent support. I do not believe that there's any investment of any town resources. We don't have to match any grant money or anything like that. And it goes from there. And I also don't believe there's any monitoring or grant reporting or anything like that we have to do. I think it's a lot like what we, with the solar panels, when we just, yeah, I'm in favor of it, let's be, although it's a different nature, the same level of sort of commitment on our part. So questions about, or comments about that, go ahead, Kathy.
So she had written in that, up to 30,000 will be retained by the town for administrative or legal costs associated with the project. But it looks to be like that would probably be to offset taxes maybe. Do you think that that's part of it? I've never seen this kind of an application, so.
I don't know that. I see what you're looking at,
Yeah.
$30,000 for administrative or labor compliance costs. I think that's if there's a lot of permitting or, you know what I mean, or inspection or other work that has to do with whether we're able to
Okay.
retain some portion of that. I think that's something that we probably either can get some feedback from council, from state, or from our neighboring communities that have done this.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Yeah, because these have been done by some of our neighboring communities before.
Okay.
And it may just be a question of sort of, what we, the university used to call indirect cost recovery, which is somebody has to push a paper around a desk and say you get a piece of the pie for it. But you have to quantify it, you know what I mean? You have to say, yeah, we spent this and this, and then now we can claim offsetting. I don't think there's a tax offset,
Okay.
but it's also, right. And I also think that it's been 20 years, one, my memory isn't perfect around it, and two, the program had changed.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't hang my hat on my recollection.
Why have they chosen Kensington?
Probably been like.
Because the property is available at this point.
The end of Cottage Road. Yeah, it's the corner front of the cottage there.
It's vacant right now.
And
It's
again,
already been approved for this use. And I'm not sure if there was previous grant funds used for that horse barn or not, I'm not sure.
So again, this is just something we learned about today.
Yeah.
So we have to follow posting and scheduling the hearings and all that.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have to follow that calendar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can go ahead and work with one guy, you know, hitting all of those benchmarks.
Yeah.
And making sure we do it right. But I will say that my memory is the onus is sort of on them. We'll do the scheduling, the hearings and stuff, but they have to bring any presentation or anything like that.
yeah, like we
Any
scheduled the
presentation.
public hearings and I'm not comfortable with the board. Somebody else representing the board at the public hearing.
Yeah, if it's us having a hearing, we have to.
Yeah, and you have to know what you're talking about.
Correct.
But
But we can have somebody else
No.
post on our behalf.
well, although it's nice, but.
We appreciate that, but
Yes,
no, it has to be, there's a reason, those are legal notices.
Right.
So they have to be posted in a certain way.
Yeah.
So say that they only posted in one instead of three, you know, they didn't, you know, so we want to make sure that that's right. So I think for the meantime, that's a stay tuned sort of a thing.
she wanted to be on the agenda for the next meeting. We can put her on the agenda. I'm not sure if we can make the public hearing notifications for that next meeting. But she will be here for the 20th.
Okay,
At least maybe give you some overview of the project more than what she has there.
right, I mean, honestly, I remember months of discussion when we did the Appleseed one in Exeter. There was also an agency, there was the Rockland Community Development, was sort of an intermediary body that worked with it. We weren't directly working, we worked with Appleseed, but we mainly worked with Rockland Community Development, which was the flow through from, it went from federal to state to county.
Okay.
And they were sort of this agency that helped smaller agencies like this to work their block grants. I don't know the
I
name.
didn't.
No, really, a couple hours ago, you case that down.
Sorry about that, but I will find.
Questions about that before we move on? Okay. We do have, the list of warrant articles in front of us. One that you will find conspicuous in its absence is the library bond request. This morning at a posted public meeting, members of this board met with members of the library trustees to discuss their plans, among which, excuse me, based on bond council, and DRA feedback, the warrant article would have to read requesting the full amount of the $5 million, and then the language would break down, you know, 2 million to be raised by the fundraising efforts of the library, and 3 million then to be a bond. As we discussed at our last meeting here, the bond, 30-year bond of $3 million is $250,000 a year to start with for debt service, which is significant. It's not coming on.
No.
And at our meeting this morning, Bob and I were upfront with the library team about our skepticism that the voters would be supportive of a warrant article of that size. The town does not have a history of those kinds of substantial capital programs. The bonds of that size. And given what we've just seen at our budget here, with our budget vote last year, our concerns that a warrant article in that nature might bog down the rest of the warrant, including the operating.
This is the way they want it to read.
That's how they want, not how it
That's not how.
yeah. So a couple of different things during the course of that meeting, one of which was that they were going to sort of go back and look and see at what a smaller or reduced size might look like. Reduced in scope. We also discussed some other options that might involve putting it off another year. We looked at options that might use other town properties to supplement the size, the space issues that the library has. That was a public meeting this morning, so I can talk about, in fact, one of the things we talked about was whether the Grange might serve as expanded library property. I don't know, Holly, yet whether you've heard this yet or not.
Frank sent me a message and that's why I was here. I just wanted to make sure that you don't need anything else from us right now on the range warrant article. It's just hold it aside, I assume, until there's further discussion on this piece that they're.
I think no matter what we do, we're gonna have to do this warrant article, because the Grange needs this work done no matter what.
It's all exact numbers. But
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think no matter what moves forward, whether the Grange continues as it is, or if it changes in nature, this work is gonna.
Submit that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is gonna have to be done.
This is Kathy, and that's what we're doing.
So,
I think know from Frank, and we are, I think there's a get together plan to talk about this before the end of the week.
okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and just to be as transparent as possible, what we're talking about is whether it might make sense to, as we've had these conversations about whether the Grange, right? And what does the future of the Grange look like as a community space and a town resource? Is, would it make sense where a big portion of the library's concern is space for children's and seniors programming? Whether it would make sense for the Grange to be repurposed as a library annex that would be focused on children's library and some senior space and that, which could be done. And could really lower the total overall cost of what we are looking to potentially do with the library. So I know the Grange trustees and the library trustees now are gonna have some sidebar conversations relative to that and what that may look like. Is it possible that we can allocate resources that we already have to service what we're looking to accomplish without asking for millions and millions of dollars from a community that might not be willing to cough those up so readily. So I'm curious to hear what the feedback is after this
I just
conversation.
want to make sure that I did my part, but we did our part of the range one, I know you're all set.
Yep.
Okay, so that's all that.
Yeah, Holly, I think that was fine.
Thank you.
I got.
That's your ride. No, that's your ride. You better love it. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait to see what the feedback from the Grange, but the library trustees seem to have some enthusiasm for that possibility.
Yeah. That makes sense in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, among other things, you potentially could find yourself in a situation where there's funds that have already been raised by the library for this purpose that could retrofit that space, and you could begin that now without asking any money from anyone.
Right.
And you could actually have 6 to 9 months of that operating before you ever come back to the community and say, now we need $750,000 for an elevator and some space renovations inside the building. And that's a much different process than we need $5 million to redo the whole library. And you can still get to where you want to get to. And then also, now that we have parking at the Grange, that issue too, remember the state and the school wants that crosswalk. Well, you just move that down and now it goes from the library over to the grades and we're satisfied. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it. But all of which I think if the stars align on it, it could be the right answer for us.
It could help strengthen the concept of town center, so.
It does that and you know, we've had this ongoing sort of existential issue of what do we do with the Grange? Do we fill it 30 days a year with, you know, the occasional art class and yoga class, or do we have it full 360 days a year?
Right.
I think the community might feel, well, that's a really good investment to keep it building. For that, so you not only do you save a ton of money, you get a ton of value out of a building that you're putting money into.
I mean, as opposed to asking for money when we already had a building that sitting there and.
It's perfectly good and doesn't get used.
Right.
That's like when your wife comes in and says, I have nothing to wear, you go look at the closet, it's full of dresses. What's wrong with all these dresses? I'm reading it. You know what I mean? It's, I don't think my wife is watching.
Are you gonna say that she do that?
Yeah, but yours are off when I get home, I guess. So no, I mean, we'll have to wait and see because obviously the grades and the library are gonna have to, you know, iron some things out and talk about where they are.
I think with the, you know, things, if things go the right way, I think they can help balance each other and be a success story. That could be useful to facilities. I think it just gives them more leeway, more things to do. Battery wants to do, the library wants to store special projects and stuff, special events. Doesn't have the room, they have the bridge facility, they get encompass into their programs. I mean, I think it could be looking at all around.
And honestly, I touched on this, but I didn't land on it heavily at the meeting this morning. I think absent something like this, it increasingly gets to be a harder sell to keep the Grange.
Yeah.
And that it becomes, I think we'd start to see pressure from the community around, what are we doing with this thing? You know, it's just sitting there. And, I think it makes a lot of sense to me, but that doesn't mean it makes a lot of sense. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how the discussions go. And I'm optimistic that we may have you know, round out of the hat relative to that. So, so moving on to unless there's other comments or questions on that, the operating budget is what it is. Okay. I'm actually gonna
Wait, is this up over the last year?
I'm gonna grab a water and I'll be right back. Excuse me.
Oh, is that up?
How much is over last year?
240,000. Because we were at a default budget adopted in 24, and I put the default budget amount in here. Because it does vary a little bit from this because of the interest. We went down in interest, so our default budget next year is less. And this is based on, we don't have to leave this part in there, this is just for you. This is, you know, you do a quick Google search of the average valuation in Kensington, this is what you come up with. So that's how I do that. Yep. If I just do this thing. That work?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. There might be an extra one if you want paper copy. Yeah, I can get it. Yep. You have my budget too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Here you go.
Thank you.
Sure. Are you all set? Okay.
Our actual hearing on these warrant articles, by the way, is on Monday, right?
Yep, the 13th.
And that is when we vote on these? Or is that on the
That's the public hearing. You can vote on them either that meeting or you could wait till the 20th.
Okay.
The public hearing is to vote on your money warrant articles in your budget. So if you didn't want to actually vote on the money warrant articles, you didn't have to at that time, but
We do have to by the 20th, okay?
I'd like to have the warrant all set for the 20th so that we could just sign it and post it.
No, that makes sense.
Has to be posted by the 27th, but you don't have a meeting then.
So let's do this. Let's plan to, we're gonna look at these briefly tonight. If there's any questions, and then on Monday, or a week from now, we'll plan on voting on these. Okay.
That'd be great.
That way we can.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. I
Um,
was still gonna get them into the DRA.
so any comments? The operating budget is what it is.
Yeah.
Road reconstruction is 20,000.
That's 200,000, that's pretty consistent there.
It has been one, with an exception here, that it's usually what we
Right.
do. And then Matt, you're ready. That's okay. Matt, you're ready to answer at deliberative session when people say, what roads is 200,000 gonna work on?
Okay.
Okay. Just know that that's gonna immediately be turned to you.
All there.
Okay.
There's my room.
Well, no, that's your answer.
So the other one is gonna be, why isn't it my?
Well, if somebody, whoever asks, your answer is, well, where do you live? What road do you want? Probably that one. Although people may not want their road paved anymore, from what I'm hearing.
I heard that too. I heard it.
Yeah, so, the solar project is what it is as well. That increase that's associated there. I thought this was,
Oh, yeah, no, this is gonna be 0.
okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that that's not gonna sneak its way through.
Yep. Sorry about that.
But did this come from Zeke or did Kathy write this? Who wrote this?
They wrote it, yeah.
The DRA is okay with this language?
I do not agree. So if you guys are gonna semi-sign off on these tonight, I can get them in the DRA website, have them all set for her, and then she won't review them until I have them all in there. I can't piecemeal them to her.
She can't.
No, so she wants to be able to review them all at once and just work on ours and work with us, not.
Yeah, there's gonna be, I think she probably is gonna have some problem with some of the latter language in that, because it's auctioneering.
It's great, yeah.
Well, it says, well, here's why it's a good idea, which sometimes they get salty about. You're limited on how much you can do.
Yeah.
I think it may end with offset 100% by, because then the money you say has no tax impact. I think anything that begins there,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna look at that
I
back.
think we should do something.
And that's something that they'll say, well, you have to argue that in deliberative session, and that's a political commentary. Even though it's factual, I think, my guess is that they're gonna ask you about it.
I think so too. But that's how it was sent in, so,
I don't mind speaking, let's speak this through,
okay, all right.
do you know what I mean? But,
Do you want me to take it off first? Just.
I mean, if we can have it, great, because it's, you know, again, I can't imagine that, I think we're gonna get that one.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, the only good thing is, I mean, the longer the warrant, the grumpier people get as they go through.
Yeah, they do,
So if we wanna,
and the more cost. It's very costly.
well, that's the next page, right? So do we wanna preemptively kind of nip and tuck on that a little bit? Take that paragraph out.
This is gonna say reason for the region.
Yeah, we have to be consistent with that.
We don't need to sell this. I think.
I don't think so either, because they've been very, very good about getting it on social media. I think it's very, Think about that.
And as long as we get the message out that it's not costing them anything.
Yeah. I'll see if they're gonna put anything in the,
You may even be able to go all the way up. I think we could probably say, see if the town raise and appropriate 90X. The purpose of installing solar panels in the roof of the town hall building. I don't like the purpose of the purpose, it offends me as a writer.
okay,
And then you could say, you could break from the end that sentence right there.
yeah, they worked really hard on this.
I know, you've been long before it, but there's different audiences for
I
different.
know,
You can end the sentence right there and then say, full cost of the system has been secured by the energy efficiency conservation block grant. And then we'll have no, you could really just say that. 'Cause I think the more language you put in here, the worse it is. If that makes sense.
I think
they did do all the work.
we're gonna-
They give you all the work for it though.
Well, that'll be right on, that's required by law. This article will have no tax impact. I think that the article should just say, for the purpose of installing solar panels on the roof of the Kennedy Town Hall building, full cost of the system has been secured by the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant by Powers and Infrastructure Law.
Pick all that up.
Yep. And you could leave in the, and we'll have no impacts, and that, and we'll have no tax impact. Don't say that, please, just keep, we'll have no tax impact. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
And we'll,
oh, yeah,
no, I'm sorry.
right here,
Yeah, when we say, and we'll have no tax impact, that's all, just keep that. I think that is your more article.
okay,
And because you don't need that, you need their twice, you don't need, you know what I mean, like, and the federal grant wasn't received by energy can be on behalf, like, that's not critical to the. This is the story of the hat maker, and the sign, right? Anyway, yeah, there's a long story about it, all the stuff on the sign is principle, you don't need to say that you make hats, they understand, you make it, ended up just the sign with the shape of a hat, right? So we just need the sign in the shape of the hat. So I think that that's probably the sort of thing that one, you won't have to go 2 rounds, just the RA on the language on it. And it's gonna shrink down
okay.
the words.
I'm
Does
gonna
that
see
make
if
sense?
he's gonna do the,
What's that?
I'll see if he's gonna put anything in the church newsletter.
Okay, because that's what this Friday is.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4 is the.
Is 80,000 what you needed, right? Is that, okay, all right,
Yeah, that will give me a little bit of, for install fee and chargers,
perfect.
batteries.
Lose the 1%.
And these are, oh, sorry,
You don't need to say it through, if you really do it through the place. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Or you could, if you really want to get specifically said would replace,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like instead of saying if approvable, you just say would. And is our, we usually say that, or when we say big departments, you know what I mean? Is our too parochial, too familiar? Is that language that we usually use? Would replace our. The towns, you know what I mean? I just, it's,
Yeah.
it's just a charm.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
We press the button now, I don't know.
That's,
That's not, and again, we've said this before, do we say on all of them, vote for reason appropriate, or just reason appropriate? Because it has to be the same on all of them. Because you say if the voters of Kensington will raise and appropriate, See, I want that language to be the same on all of them. Because we start with, the first one says, shall the town of Kensington raise and appropriate?
Okay.
And number two says, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate. And then the third one says, to see if the town will, they're all different. And it's giving me hives.
Oh, this one has to be shall.
I understand that, I don't have an issue with that. It says, shall, it's, go back, Catherine. It says, shall the town of Kensington raise and appropriate? So they should all say, to see if the town of Kensington will raise and appropriate. You know what I mean? Like, I want the language,
I think this is.
it doesn't have to say shall. But see how it says the town of.
Yeah.
God, I'm killing you. You don't have to do that.
Okay.
I just want consistency across all the articles from how they were introduced.
Yeah.
Because right now they're all different.
How many radios, you want to say how many radios we're purchasing for $8,000?
Well, the question is, do we know how many or do we? Sure. You see what I'm saying, Kathy?
Yeah.
Well, it's.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I remember last year we had a discussion around this and.
Yeah, about 5 radios, what we're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a certain number of mobile and then there's portable, right? They're different ranges.
Are two different.
What's our total limit?
So you have, let's see, 2, 3,
I'm not sure. I just. It goes. Okay.
so 6 mobile radios,
6 what?
6 mobile radios,
Okay,
6.
okay? Then you'll have. Uh, 11 portables. And that is only covering the front line pieces, that's not covering the back line. Like the utility truck.
yeah,
What's the difference between mobile and portable?
Mobile is what's in the truck, and that kind of stays there, you can't take it anywhere, it's
Okay,
there to the truck.
okay, good.
Portable is the one that we
Handheld.
handheld. And you talk, if you want to get it into New York City. Depends on what language you want. They'll say more.
those are good practice, because those are the kinds of questions that come up in deliberative sessions, and people would ask that.
Yeah.
So what we could put in there is say, the purchase of 6 new mobile radios for fire vehicles and 11 new portable radios. So it's actually right in there, how many we're getting. Well, no, this is.
Okay.
This is good. This is what it is.
I'll insert that number of radios. That have it? Give me the last. Thank you.
See the town would really go over 25,000. Well, okay, what am I tried to cut a whole page.
Sorry, we're not there yet.
$75,000.
Just copy and paste it.
Yeah, this is the same. Two questions on that. That's the,
And I looked up the 0.11 cents. That's the way they said to do it. I know we go back and forth with that every year.
well, no, as long as it's consistent and correct. We had one year where we were red on a couple of them, and we had to, fix it after.
This is correct.
This is,
This is why, Bob, this is Bob's specialty.
okay.
Check it out. Make sure they're right.
Thank you.
Okay. And then next
Under
meeting
what-
is
under
the police department tree.
Yeah, police public solid safety revolving fund doesn't need to be yellow. The all caps,
Yeah, I know, this is,
okay, just. I feel like I'm on an internet message board.
No, it's that's how it was.
Yep, no, I got it. And I changed a little bit, these funds are earmarked to be used. Okay, we changed that already. This is just as earmarked for, this is an old printout.
Where?
I'm looking at number 6.
Yep.
Okay, see how it says these funds are earmarked to be used?
Yeah,
Later, we have one that just says earmarked for, but I'll say, so when you say earmarked to be used,
okay,
it can just say earmarked for.
yep. Okay.
Either these funds are to be used or earmarked, you don't need to say earmarked to be used, that's a redundant. You see what I'm saying?
I did. All right.
Well, it's either or, I don't really care. Earmarked actually has a derogatory connotation.
These
So,
funds are to be used for persons. He did, I think he made this a little bit more than last year.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, looking at it because the language isn't quite right. These funds are to be used for first responders that could be police department. To support. Because the way it is right now, it means that the money is for them to support that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I see.
It has to say to be used in support of. No, give me, this reason what is more elegant way to do it.
Okay.
Funds are. No, I'm not concerned with that piece of it, it's actually the way the whole thing is sequenced, is that.
Oh, down, well, okay, yeah.
Funds are to be used for. And you would then list all of the career development, You see what I'm saying, this is actually, it's gonna be used, I'm sorry about this guy. Well, I'm off.
I'd rather work it out today than next week.
Say it's used for first responders, kind of the police department, and then you list all the stuff, and you say it's for the officers because they're in the police department.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like,
Oh,
it's like saying, I, for you, brought this turkey for you. So what you can say is these funds are to be used for, or to be used to support all those, and then you can cut out that because you say at the end, for first responder, law enforcement officers, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
To use to support, but. Oops.
Yeah, you can make for on as well. Because it would be used to support all of those things for all the person putting in. And you can take actually all like here, because it's gonna be for whoever uses it, right? You don't get all those things for everybody. That's in those, that quality. So you down and say, to support all of this stuff for first responder, law enforcement officers are good. And see how it says, take out employees, please.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I said I would take these and I did, but I must have had to sleep.
That's okay.
Does that make sense? Am I crazy with
No, you're good.
changes? I know it's not a literary society, so you want to make sure we do.
No, fine, it's good.
Appreciate it. The back of the head and this.
We take out your marching.
Yeah. So. This one's before. What I would do is I would take consumer goals, so it's not covering the operating budget.
Yeah.
I would start there, take out everything between, okay, so it says not covered under the operating budget, such as technology, you know what I mean, like.
Just,
Yeah. Hold on one second. My concern around this is the way it's worded. Says that we haven't anticipated these salaries or, do you know what I mean, like. There's so much in there, unanticipated expenses not covered in the operating budget such as. Technology upgrades, cloud storage service, I mean, there's so much listed in here. Including police department salaries.
police department. I mean, he's trying to be specific here. He also elaborated on this one too,
I think it's,
because if he didn't end up with a budget next year, he's nervous about not having.
but you can't say that salaries and overtime, what's that?
That was the bottom of the other for, he's not even.
No, I understand, and I get where he's trying to get at here. What you're saying is unanticipated expenses not covered in the operating budget, but. You know, technology upgrades. Repair of office equipment. Police department salary, these are all things that we've anticipated. And that's why we budgeted for them,
Like line items.
right, yeah, actually, you know, if I'm a certain degree to vote around, it kind of like, what are you, you know, what are we doing here? So I do think that, is, unanticipated, not covered under the operating budget. I do think,
He,
okay,
does he just get rid of it and ask for 50?
and have it just go to the revolving fund,
It's
no,
all-
because that's specific. It's not though, because the top, it's specific to,
I know, funds tuition.
it's really about instructional and training.
Okay.
But the second one, I would have it specifically related to, you know, the one thing in here I look at, you know, forensic criminal investigations. And recruitment retention needs. I mean, these are things that you can't anticipate. What are the things that we can't anticipate? One is, you know, we have such as, you could even say extraordinary forensic criminal investigations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's really what he's talking about. No, leave that and just say such as extraordinary forensic criminal investigations. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Those criminal investigations.
Upgrades, repairs.
I would say,
take them down, right?
yeah.
And related services.
I would say, you know, unforeseen overtime or recruitment needs, you know, those sorts of things I can see as being, you know what I mean? And this might be a
You
place,
take salary though?
yeah, well. And the series says also to include, this is where we use those magic words, Kathy, where we would say these funds are for additional police department anticipated expenses not covered under the operating budget, including but not limited to,
Yes,
okay? Instead of such as, we would say including but not limited to. Which I think is actually language that they like you to use. Extraordinary forensic criminal investigations, and then what do we have as we went down? Yeah, take out unrelated services, you know, that whole piece.
this to the.
Yep. And I would say they're unforeseen overtime and recruitment expenses.
Retention and building.
No. Let me see the whole way here too. Hold on. Okay, so extraordinary forensic criminal investigations, you can take forensic, no, we didn't. I know. So we want to extraordinary forensic criminal investigations. Unforeseen overtime and recruitment expenses.
And this is any balance for meeting a year.
Yeah, we just need one more, exhibit because it's, so it would be the extraordinary, forensic criminal investigations, unforeseen overtime and recruitment expenses. And I'm thinking about things like, mandated technology costs. Right, so because things sometimes in the middle of the year.
That's what he's trying to.
I know, I'm trying to have him say what he needs to say,
Yeah.
without saying what he said. So here you would want to say. And, yeah, because it's the last of three, so you'd say
Yeah.
expenses, comma, it's okay. Mandated, technology upgrades. This is like when a new law comes out that says you have to have, 6 city blocks of servers to keep all your video stuff on.
Okay.
That's it. And I think that, what you've done is you said, here are 3 examples of things that are unforeseen that we can't budget for, which is why we need this, without it being a laundry list of stuff that's already in the budget.
Okay,
Okay?
I get it.
Furthermore, any balance remaining at the year end, whoa, that's not right.
I,
Any balance remaining, I,
this is like the same,
And all the other words you gave me were you direct.
I'm sorry?
And the other words that were listed here, we don't direct funds that you go over to a slide that doesn't spend.
Yeah, I mean, this,
this is, yeah,
what this is trying to retain their unspent surplus. I have an issue with that. Because in the, under the direction of the less scrupulous chief, you could have yourself having a lot of that sliding into that revolving fund every year. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
what you could say is, furthermore, a portion of unspent police department operating budget may be transferred to the police public safety revolving fund upon vote of the board of selectmen.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that would show that it was going to be reviewed.
A portion of unspent police department operating budget.
Yeah,
Maybe, and then you can take out any balance remaining. Yeah. Of unspent year end, you want to say that? Year end. Police. And police department operating budget may be transferred to the police department and the police public safety revolving fund account upon or by vote.
Yeah. If you get the police department, did them that spending funds, But shouldn't it come back to the, or to the town, or the town budget for its allocation? I mean, the reason why we are setting up these funds for this and that is in case they need to have it. If they don't need to have it, then should those come back into the general operating budget? Just like any other thing, you know, if we an emergency call or we buy a fire engine, and we will figure out how to do it for 3/4 of what we expected it to be. Should the balance then come back to the budget in general?
What currently happens right now is all departments at the end of the year, say there's 3 weeks left in the year and there's, $100,000 that's been unspent, that can be spent anywhere in the budget, and whatever's not spent goes into the fund balance, which is an accumulated surplus over time.
So you that the access here toward the fund balance?
That's what currently happens. What this would do would be to say that at the end of the year, the way we're rewording it now, not as it was presented, but as we're rewording it, this board would be able to say, okay, this police department specifically has $100,000 unspent. We're gonna take 50 of that. Rather than it going to fund balance, we're gonna move it into the public safety revolving fund next year. We're gonna use it to pay off another year of cruiser leases. And like that's that sort of thing. And we're gonna, I mean, that's why what I recommended was instead of just the portion automatically happens, for the entirety automatically happens. It is no, this board then can vote to move a portion of it. Could the police chief could then say, hey, listen, can I take, I've got 25 unspent. Can I move that into the revolving fund for next year so that, that helps to build that up? And this board would have oversight over how much, if any of that gets moved into that.
Does the board have oversight on the access fund that you're referring to?
You're talking about the fund balance?
Yeah.
No. We do and we don't. We have to, the state has control of our fund balance.
Yeah.
And we can only,
Haven't spent it.
yeah,
You're limited on how you move it.
right. And actually, they actually control that. We don't have it in the safe in the basement or in a bank account someplace. That's basically like when, you've got credits with Amazon, right? Like you can only spend it at Amazon the way they tell you can. And we can only use it at certain times in certain ways that the state permits. We can't just use it at any time. And I do want to, like the public safety revolving fund only can be expended by the board of price. So you have control of what goes in and then what and when it comes out. I'm not fully sold yet on this clause to begin with. But if it exists and if we add it, I think it has to go through this board. And it's not automatically the whole thing, it's some portion, we can vote some portion of it to be held over. Because
Why do that for the police and not do it for the other department?
an excellent question. I think that what the police chief were here would be to say is that they have unanticipated costs relative to large investigations, relative to overtime that we don't see across the board. And if we build a revolving fund that allows us to rainy day if we do have a major, this year, you have a major investigation in sex crimes, you've got a shooting incident, you've got, all these things that threaten to blow up their budget with overtime. You then build up this sort of cushion that allows you to, rather than having a $1.5 million in fund balance right up with the state, we control the portion of that allows us to absorb those things when and if they happen. So that's my understanding of why this would roll this way. I know we have two other department heads sitting over there going, this sounds like I would love that very much if we have a big storm and we have emergencies too. So I get it. I understand where that's coming from, but y'all didn't forward it, so. No, I think what it comes down to for us is we may be looking at the future of doing these so that we can retain more of the money that the town has appropriated for these purposes, rather than all going off to fund balance. We can build up these actual rainy days that the board controls to offset unforeseen emergencies that happen. We have 6 major structure fires. We had a horrible winter. You know what I mean? That we can do that, and it actually would potentially allow us to budget more tightly. Like when we were talking at your budget hearing, Matt, well, we budget based on 6 events. We've only seen 3 a year, but we don't want to be caught with our pants down the 1 year that we have 7.
So you end up with a 50K surplus, right?
But if you had a reserve account that said, listen, we've got 50 or 60 in a reserve account, we can budget every year a little more tightly, so that when we hit that 1 year, we've got this reserve account that we built up that allows us, so we're not asking for that money every year and now it goes into fund balance. We actually keep some of it in the pot. I can see the wisdom behind that. But you have to have the fiscal controls on it, that it's not just automatically it all goes in. The board can say, hey, let's push a portion of it into there that we control for this purpose.
Don't we do that? Do we have that ability now?
I don't know that we have unilateral ability to say at the end of the year, hey, we've got 50 grand, let's move it into the revolver. The revolver is currently set up, and I need taking like detail money, right?
Detail, and then money from warrant article.
This is like what we do every year. We have one in here that says, any money the fire department made from inspections and permits, we're gonna push into your revolver.
Right.
It's like, scope is different, but it's that same sort of an approach. That into the hands of the municipal treasurer, is that required by ordinance to be there at that RSA?
But it needs to be, now that we moved everything else around, that needs to be. Like that.
But I do think that, what's that?
I said, I was voting extra money to do my annual testing.
I understand, this isn't the showcase on the price, we're not quite there. I'm just. Excuse me. Don't do that, I get in trouble if I do that.
You're already in trouble. I'm about to my stresses. Yeah.
Schools.
She gave up reading minutes at one time. And again, when the chief sees it, this may not be what he had in mind, and he may want to take that out.
Right.
But to me, if we're gonna do anything like this, I think that fiscal control has to be there.
Yeah, he couldn't be here tonight.
No, I understand that, I'm not trying to get there. But when you guys talk about, I'm sure.
Okay, I'll send it up to
Too bad.
you. I'm not sure what he's gonna be.
I don't like setting up an automatic trigger that now every year it sweeps out whatever
Yeah, I
the
agree.
expense are at the end. I think that
Making it so it's too easy to not do it.
well, potentially, I want you to imagine a scenario without the personalities that are on the tables right now. And you have a board that says, oh man, we've got 40,000 in needs at the end of the year, and the chief is sitting on $100,000 budget. The chief says, tough cookies, that goes into my revolver at the end of the year by whatever voting. And the selectmen are sitting here going, hey, listen, we really need, the chief could literally sit there and say, not my problem. Whereas in this scenario, the board says, yeah, and that's why you set it up to say that the board has the control over that and gives us the option and the ability to do it rather than sitting here with our thumb in our nose while it just happens at the end of the year, no matter what.
And this is done for, it can be done for other funds. I'm not even sure if the DRA will allow it for this fund. Well,
We'll find out, but I think if we're gonna do it, it has to be done this way. Does that make sense?
And if we can't control the fund that the excess is going to, then we should have that language in every department.
I don't disagree with you, but this to me falls under the header of sort of the carrying the coal mine trial balloon idea. If we could do this and it works, then maybe we do look at doing it for, because we've already got a fire capital reserve fund.
We have a roads one we haven't used.
We have those ones, so maybe we look at building up rainy day funds for each department that insulate us against, so that we don't have to budget with a pad for emergencies. We can budget exactly or close to what we need, knowing that we've got, that if it does start to rain real hard, you know, we're not over a barrel. We also want to be ready for all those building department emergencies that, well, I understand, you know, we're not even yelling at you, like.
I was wondering, would we,
Feels like junior high days all over, you know? Okay, we were gonna do away with the fire and emergency services capital reserve fund altogether, right? That was.
No, this is to put money into the water fund this year, so they haven't done it.
You're getting mouthy over there, man. Be careful. Got a lot to say for a guy who's asking for money.
Keep my hand on the garbage flow for that, being over the barrel.
This is that same language.
Yeah. And this, he has not given me an amount for this, I need to get that solidified.
With body cams.
I know we was having trouble with the vendors getting an actual amount. I'm not sure if he had called me earlier today and I didn't have a chance to get back to him. So I'm not sure if that's what he was calling about, so we'll touch base with him tomorrow.
I want to get back to something actually, which is, did we talk about for the radios doing fund balance for that?
You mentioned it.
Huh?
You mentioned it in my number for all to replace everything, and I gave that to Kathy. Who read it to you.
This is the 80,000, right?
Yeah, well, the 80,000 would cover the frontline pieces, and then
Right, it's not-
the following year I need to do the backline pieces and the portables for the guys. I just was trying to take care of the trucks that go out the door, first of all.
If we, because I think that. For that, I don't know, I mean, we can look at a couple of these as to whether fund balance, this is one way we can use fund balance, is to pay for warrant articles, so we can go to the town and say, hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna use some of that accumulated balance to pay for it, so it's not going to cost any new tax money, because you've already paid this money in over the years. So here's one, like, we have $80,000, it's a one-time expense.
Right.
We don't like to do it for recurring expenses, because you start doing that, you screw up your cash flows. But you do it for a one-time expense or a very rare event.
Because those should, those radios, once they go in, they should last us a good, you know, say 15 to 20 years before we are in the spot we are now, where they're unsupported by software.
Right, and I get what you're saying.
You know,
How much, okay,
How much is in that fund at this point?
we're in fund balance is 1.2.
So would we use that for like the radios?
That's what we're just
That's what he-
talking about.
That's what he's thinking of.
Yeah,
It does make sense.
especially when you consider how much are we, now, we're not gonna put a lot into fund balance this year, we're gonna be closer than most years.
Okay. It's good. Very close this year.
You're gonna be able to see Kathy. See, you're very close. But I mean, we probably put it in last year.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, the exact numbers.
Yeah, but I mean.
Yeah.
This is money that people have already paid in taxes. They might as well get their money's worth for it rather than sitting in agreements. You know what I mean?
here is a permanence.
And this would be an actual, not a better way of using fund balance, but a better way of using fund balance, I think, than offsetting the tax rate, because the tax rate is spread
Yeah.
over every entity.
This
It's not
does
just the town.
offset tax.
It isn't just the town.
It is
Right.
hard.
Our portion, the town portion only, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I-
instead of offsetting the entire.
Helping to discount what schools are
Yes.
trying, yeah, this actually
Sorry,
is,
yes,
it gets, it uses it uses Kensington tax dollars to benefit Kensington.
yes.
And so this then would be. Okay. So 154 would be for all of the radios.
That covers everything, that replaces everything in it, minus the five that we are getting from the ARPA grant.
I'd rather do 150 than 2 if you're gonna do it.
150.
I'm probably gonna go with the penny, but thank you.
You say get numbers, I got it.
You did.
This is where the comparing this is, say 154 and keep it under, right? But you get paid, like, leave find $100 in your budget and find it.
Do we have a similar spend from the police?
Yeah, maybe green was too, but I don't know if it's.
What I
think
do,
it's something else from this show.
I would look at the body cameras.
The body cam definitely is, yes, fine.
So once we get a number on body.
Those. Yes. So there should be non-existent.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that that's one where we can say that
And those have been extremely beneficial to the town
it's a good job.
and the officers.
I have no issue with that at all.
No,
I think if we're gonna get them, they need to be fund balance.
right, and okay, so fund balance for the.
Yes. I would do it, both, I would do the 154 for the videos. And I would do the full amount for the body cameras. And if that takes us down from 1.2 to 1 million, I have no problem. I would sleep like a
Yep.
baby.
Yep, I agree with you. Not that I'm.
You're gonna vote, Kathy. She's the 101st senator.
Okay, now we're gonna do
She's the mayor.
150.
Works out for me, so I need to stay there.
Well, you probably still will. You'll want,
You're gonna want to get.
it'll be to your benefit to be like, you are now going to pay no new taxes. And we're going to get $154,000 worth of radios that for the next 20 years, we're never gonna ask you for radios.
And if you can get a quote from a company, if the numbers indicated were great, but like a quote from a company
Okay.
would be ideal. So that you could
Sure.
have. No, it's not me. It's the general public that needs to know you've got an actual quote for this now. You know that that's what it's going to cost.
So the chief needs to come in, Scott needs to come in with the body camera numbers.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we can't do it.
Right.
We gotta do it by number.
exactly.
So. The cemetery
Would you be
one,
able to have that by the 3rd? Or,
I will do my best.
okay, okay. I'm just thinking deliberative sessions when they're
you're
gonna.
gonna assign that to a guy, what you gotta do, that's.
They're all good things. We don't want everything.
The whole 154.
Okay.
The kid and caboodle. I'm gonna respond back to that email you sent me, so that we're all on the same page. Does that work? Does that work, Jeff? Responding back to that.
Yeah, you don't want to, so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Versus agreement or something. Yeah,
Oh, no. I was thinking of calling anyways.
that'd be great. 2 is better than 1. All right, I just responded back to that, so we're on the same page.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So the cemetery expendable trust fund. Sorry, that's from fund balance as well. On the cemetery one, by reading it right? Or is this simply,
She
This
wanted
year.
to- Well, she wanted to do an amount, and I don't know what she wants to do there. Oh, equivalent to the unexpended.
So whatever we didn't spend this year, put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can add that number. I know that number.
So an expendable trust fund means that we are the ones that are agents of that fund, right? Does that need to be in this article that the board is named as the agents of that fund?
Expendable trust.
So are we applying the general budget for cemeteries, for cemetery maintenance?
Yes.
And this is what this, that would be discussed on.
The issue that we have with the cemeteries is they have a baseline of maybe $7,000 a year for mowing and maintenance. And then every 10 years or so, it spikes because the fence needs to get taken care of and some other stuff. The idea is that when you do this, you maintain it easy and you don't get 1 year out of 10 where there's this spike. And that's what this reserve account would accomplish with that.
It comes from the unassigned fund balance.
Well, the idea is that we fund it with this, with what wasn't spent this year, because what was weird was last year was the spike.
You're not raising your appropriation.
Yeah, last year was the spike, and then because we went to the default budget, they got the same spike number this year when they didn't need it. So the idea would be to take that overage, put it in this toward the next
As
time.
long as there's no less than.
I get you. I understand. Well, what you would really do is take it out of fund balance, because whatever's left this year goes into budget.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? So it's, yeah, it's 6-1, that does the other, just whether it's from this year or for the last 20 years, it's gonna be the $10,000.
oh, that's what's missing. Yeah. Furthermore, a portion of unspent, you have to do from, the reserve fund balance here somewhere. That has to have the same thing in there.
What you would have to say, what you would have to say is, portion of fund balance equivalent to, or no more than, okay. You would have to say, you would have to say,
To come from.
a portion of fund balance may be assigned to this no larger than the unspent unit operating balance. You need something like that. I don't know what it is.
To.
Okay, it's gone to the circus and all.
Yes, this is just a one, this is just for me to look up that, right?
Don't go to the zoo with the weird.
No,
Okay, but to go back to cemetery one. We have to rename this, yeah, to name this agents, okay.
yeah. I'll clean that up too.
Okay. Clear as mud, everybody, on what we're doing there.
Is that okay?
Oh, look, go down, it says,
Yeah.
maybe more, it was already there.
It's gonna move up, I think.
Okay, but for their names, like, it's up, at least it was already, I didn't see it before, at least it's there, okay.
Let me take it back. Okay, this is what we need for this. This is the 25 edit, this is the new one, the 60/40, it's what they came up with all their cleaning and. It says unforeseen repairs, but. We really, there's no law. That they have it detailed out.
But that's
This is
good,
what-
not what goes on, should do.
This was what the burner permits were. This year, so that's why numbers are already.
Okay. I never even applied for it. Okay.
It's a new year.
What's
That
that?
good time, it's a new year. Just go
They
on.
might try to revamp this a little bit,
If we,
I'm not sure though.
if we ever have a day that it's not dangerous to burn, maybe that'll.
Oh, it's good time.
Are we good now?
Oh, yeah, we're good. Got rain, guys get stuff good. So I want to get a new permit.
Okay, that one makes sense. October 14.
Kathy, I thought you were gonna add that just to the regular, the 75, and just put an extra line that said, when we sell the international that money will go to the new fire, kind of what this one's saying, but I thought you were just gonna put it into 75. I mean, okay, that's fine.
They're two separate things,
Okay,
and if the 75 doesn't pass, this will be.
okay.
We wouldn't be able to sell it.
Right.
So, but here is, my understanding is we could sell the product. We don't need a town vote to sell that apparatus.
But you needed to put the money from the sale
Hmm.
into the fund.
So what I would say is, to see if the vote will, see if the town will vote to place the proceeds from the sale of, not to see if we'll sell. We need to be able to sell it without the vote of the town. This just tells us that we can put the funds into that reserve account. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So say we sell it, this vote fails, but it just goes into the general fund.
And June 1 is what it's called, right?
Yep, yep. That's what it's listed as for sale, as we speak.
And then you can change the rest of it to reflect, but you know what I mean, like. You see the difference? Yeah, see, what you would say now is, see if the town would replace the proceeds from the sale of engine one into the, yeah, we take that middle piece. Starting with the end. And get the two places, please. Well, you give it a place too.
Kathy had said 93. It was wrong by the year, but. Okay.
It doesn't.
Is it a 93 3D?
It is a 93 3D
Okay.
International Fire Truck. I had the year wrong, so.
Thank you.
93 was a big year. These funds will be used for the purchase of new tank and pumper. Does it need to say the majority of open provided? Is all? Huh? Really?
No, because it's not a sale.
Exactly.
It's not a sale.
Sorry, that's why.
Yeah, it's not a sale.
And then we have the 3 or 4 now, social service requests. I know that was a little bit extracted as like a whole trip to the dentist, but.
Well, so we have to do this week. Thank you. I will resend those so that you guys can all see them again.
Okay.
After and you want to come from your mobile to the leaves, right? Yeah. All right, I have that saved and I will clean that out. I'll send you the new version. And as soon as I get the amounts from cemetery, PD, yeah. PD in the cemetery. Oh, and then I put in your amounts, yeah. PD in the cemetery. And then I'll post it, right, and I'll post those and the budget on the website as soon as I get those numbers.
Okay,
Is that good?
yes.
Good, thank you very much for going to that.
I think that concludes my agenda. What do you have for?
The only other thing I had was just the update from, Justin Adams. I don't know if you saw that from Northeast Education. They had some concerning conversations, about triple E and how it went right to mammals. And it didn't have, it wasn't presenting the same it usually does. So there's different things that they have to test for now. Some of the mosquitoes are breeding attached to the roots instead of on the water. So there might be, he's gonna come to you with further information. This was back December 31st. So he's gonna do another proposal for you. The price is gonna change for this year, for what he was saying, but he does think that there's going to be additional testing and the state is aware of how we were kind of surprised last year.
Right, okay.
And they are expecting it to be again this year. So they are on it. He's gonna get more. That's,
In the meantime, it's 17 degrees outside.
oh, exactly. I don't have to talk about the stations anymore.
You think, you don't want to say part of it, yeah, right. That's the one. You have other?
She did go through a company for IT. We have our own IT guy up here. They actually looked at ours and said that Lars is doing a wonderful job. So I'm not really right now interested in entertaining this. We are not the animal that the police department is with all of the state organizations that they have to interact with. And the security that they are putting on their individual, organizations, I guess. So he is looking into this bigger company to do some IT work downstairs for him. And, that is specifically for the town.
Who does,
He has that.
who does some stuff, you know, response to it?
No, he has somebody else. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Lars about doing that. He wanted somebody that's 24/7.
This is a proposal to us for the town.
This is just the towns.
I have my concerns like authorities.
Yeah. I thought it.
See, this is, you know, you're gonna send out a proposal to a community that you're gonna. Anyway, and you're.
So I just wanted to give you a heads up. Heads up that this company, you know, Scott's been looking into it and he's heard good things about them. So he might be doing something different in the future.
Okay.
This is for Carleen for her researches. Standard searches does her tax lien, and those will be coming up in a little bit. And we always have a contract with her yearly to do those searches for us, so.
So this is $20 per search.
Yeah.
If plus some other additional fee schedule. So we don't need to, we just need to sign off on it.
Yes, that would be the contract.
With this, when is the set up, just which one is, should I sign the first one or should we sign these three?
No, you can sign the first one. You can sign the first one and then we have to pick it. No, there's gonna be bills and payroll. I have the New Hampshire Health Officer Association. I think that I just put in, I didn't do it last year, but someone else thought about what they wanted to do for this coming year. If they wanted to just put me as the member again, or if they wanted to be listed as another. It's $45. The town has to have it.
I think it's been capped in the past. Yes. Do you want to be the health officer? Well, this is less that than it is.
It's just a membership.
A membership.
It's just a membership. So we need involved with all of the updates and.
Yeah, I'll vote for this. You don't want to do anymore.
Well, no, this is, it's not about the health officer appointment. This is just membership in the state organization that we have to have within the town. So we don't need to have anybody do it.
Okay.
And that's a contract for researches, for the leadings for Carlin. Yeah, that's something different. Yeah, things coming out.
Sign.
Yes.
Yes.
Talking about the Northeast, this was the remaining 3 bills. They did not go to this board, so that's the remaining 15,000. The first one where the, that's 9,000, that's all I did.
That's this one.
Yeah.
Initial this payment for their building.
This is the big picture.
Thank you.
So Kathy, this is just to be a member? This is your, right?
Yeah, that's a number, so it's, it can either be myself or if you guys want to do it. Doesn't matter either way,
Okay.
just $45.
Kathy, do it?
Kathy, you want to do it?
You want to do it, Kathy, or?
Sure. It's just holding the membership.
Okay.
It's not the. You guys are still on the job.
We need to sign it.
Thank you. I do have, while we're at it, I do have the board minutes from the 2nd and the 16th of December. That need to look at. While we're doing the minutes. Yeah, I would be happy to entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 2nd and December 16th.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we move those minutes will be approved. Our next, we do meet on Monday night, at which time we will vote on the warrant articles, that are before us. I don't anticipate a full business meeting, but we can do like bills and payroll and stuff like that.
Okay.
We may not, we have posted, but may not need the meeting on the 14th for the library bond.
Right.
So we have that posted should we need it. So stay frosty relative to that. We may want to do it, we may not.
So we're meeting next Monday, the 13th.
Correct. And then we are also meeting on the 20th of January, which is our regular meeting.
And you also have Wednesday, if there's substantial changes leading to any of the budget or warrant articles, you would have to have a second public hearing.
Okay.
So that Wednesday was set aside for that, and Bob brought it to my attention that that's actually a planning board meeting. So if we do have to have the meeting on Wednesday night, as long as you do a date, time specific, we can change it to like 5 on Wednesday before the planning board meeting.
Okay, well, let's try not to have any substantial changes.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I went over tonight.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. February 3 is deliberative session.
Yes, Monday.
February 3rd.
Yeah.
That kind of mucks with our rotation a little bit. Because that would otherwise have been our next scheduled meeting. We.
Is a delivery going to be at the school?
Yes.
I'm just trying to game out on the meetings.
You do that like the 24th.
The 20th,
24th and 17th. Maybe get 2 days in a row, to not be one of the spend it long.
the 3rd might be to the point where I never want to see anyone ever again. Monday again, work may not be my first choice. So what we could do, if the 20th to the 10th isn't too long. We could do the 10th. The problem with the 24th is that I think that week is school break and I can't guarantee that I can't guarantee that I'll be in town.
Okay.
We can sort of see where we are as we go forward, but because then on March 11th is election day and we got to figure out whether we're meeting the 3rd and the 10th or what.
Right.
If we meet on the 10th of February, my recommendation might be to go February 10 and 17, although the 17th is President's Day. But we are, meeting on Martin Luther King Day on the 20th too, so like we've already kind of broken the seal on when we meet.
Right now, actually, I'm scheduled to be out of town on the 10th.
Of February?
Yeah.
Okay. I still don't understand the whole Monday for deliberative session. It's never, ever, ever been. a Monday.
No, that the school, there's somebody new at the school Monday, already scheduled, everything posted it months ago.
I feel very valued in the partner. Why don't we? Let's meet next Monday and let's think about it. So I can't solve it. Like, I can't.
No, that's fine, that's fine, just.
There was one, sorry.
I don't mean.
So next Monday, 13th, we're gonna.
13th, yeah, and then possibly the 14th and 15th, just keep those two open for possibilities, but we'll find out on the 13th whether or not we'll need them or not.
We're certainly meeting on the 13th, so we have the next
Yeah.
2 Mondays.
So 13th and 20th.
Yes, we certainly have the next 2 Mondays.
Yeah.
And if it works out that we can't meet again until March 11th, we'll leave the meeting. We'll have to figure out when in February we can meet. It might be a challenge, but we'll get there.
I don't know if you wanted to push off the 20th to the 27th. And you could do the 11th of February.
Well, let me look at that then, hold on, because January 20th is a holiday.
Yeah.
So instead of the 20th, we do the 27th. That pushes us to February 10th, but we know Bob's not in town.
Mhm.
You do the 5th,
On Wednesday meeting? Just to throw off our fans.
Okay.
Uh,
the 4th might be a zoning board meeting comes up.
let's meet on January the 27th instead of the 20th.
Okay,
Because we are already gonna have 2 weeks, whatever, weeks.
Yeah. That's what.
Let's meet on the 27th and then we'll meet and we'll look at
Okay.
it and figure it out.
Okay, yeah, if you guys can look at your schedules for February.
And that way we're not asking people to tune in on
Yeah,
calendar all later weekend.
okay, that would be the 4th too.
so the 27th.
The things they do. Okay, so we're gonna be on the 27th. Do you have bills and payroll?
I do.
Much fun, this is like sitting on the coffee.
Payroll. And we can speak with our payroll company. And they are following through and still having us at the amount quoted. But there is a good possibility that we will be tripling our payroll expenses when they decide they want to do that anymore. They're giving us a discount every single week, but showing what the fee would actually be. So I do have some points.
So the 27th meeting. Right,
Yes.
27th, yes.
Yeah, 13th and 27th for right now, and then the 3rd of February is a deliberative session. So those are set in stone, those three. 3rd of February,
February
Deliberative.
3rd is deliberative.
February 3rd, deliberative,
6.
I think it's 6. I will get that to you.
Not Steve. H.
That's those and. Nope, that's library stuff. We're good.
Anything else? Send the table.
Bob, you got 6 of them.
Seeing nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make an offer for it.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All against, the motion carried. Thank you.
You want to hear this?
Thank you, everybody.